Welcome to Startup Hack. All right, you know what's really funny is watching AI try to do some of these things that it's been touted to do that everyone's saying it's totally amazing for, right? So I'm going to show you some great examples how it can't even draw a perfect circle. Now, that's some basic geometry, but yet it fails. Yet companies are talking about firing their developers and thinking that AI can replace them. So after 25 years in software development, I've been seeing a dangerous trend. Companies, especially C-level executives, rushing to adopt AI without understanding its real limitations. I have this conversation almost daily, so I want to dive into some of this today and discuss some of this. So let's dive into it. Welcome back to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thompson. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as to build custom software solutions for companies. With a decade of executive leadership as a fractional CTO and 25 years in software development, I've mastered transforming tech teams and products. All right, so let's talk about AI. So everyone's really hyping it up, but here's really the truth. AI is failing, and it's failing pretty hard. Now, a lot of people are talking about, how fast it's going. And yeah, I mean, Grok 3 was just announced last night, and I'll talk about that, once I've consumed that a little bit more. And sure, is what the things it's doing impressive? Yes. But are we a long ways from firing developers to have AI do all of the work? We're a long ways from that. So why? It's because it's definitely not ready for prime time. And I don't even think it's close, especially when you start talking about replacing core engineers and things like that. So think about it for a minute. AI can't even draw a perfect circle. And seriously, it's a mess. And that's just the kind of the tip of the iceberg. So I'm going to dive into some of this today, right? So AI is failing some really basic system reliability. There's an example here that I want to go into a report on that I want to show you guys here. And so this was a really interesting example, right? So there was a case, and I'm going to just kind of highlight this, but basically there was a time where somebody had was working with a production system, and they wanted to get a bash script to run. So they asked AI what to do, and AI told it, just set it to chmod 777. Now, what that does is it actually sets it so that any user, any permission could run this bash script. And this bash script was actually highly sensitive and set some really bad things. And of course, it introduced this major system vulnerability that allowed their servers to be overtaken. Now, this is just a really classic example of just because AI can, or just because we can do something, the ability to know and to reason and to logic of whether you should do it is part of the problem here, right? Could AI say, hey, set this to chmod 777? Yeah, and would that actually have solved the problem they were looking to solve to get this script to run? Yes, absolutely. But they never should have set it to this because it actually exposed a very critical system, and there ended up being a very bad system breach because of this. And so I want to talk about, go through what he talks about here, right? Originally there was machine code, then they came up with assembly, right? Remember when real programmers wrote in binary? No, okay, well, same. I was born in 77, so it's not like this was even people can't, this was, this is something where, I don't remember these times. But now we start to come about compiled versus interpreted. But interpreted languages are too slow, screamed developers in 1995, while waiting 45 minutes for their Java applets to load up over dial-up, right? Now, then you get into monolithic versus microservice. Why? Because there's one point of failure. Now we talk about on-prem versus on-prem versus cloud, right? Because remember, actually owning your own servers. So this is kind of going into this same process, right? And we're following back into this same kind of ritual where we're seeing a lot of people talk about, this is, AI is the next best thing. It's going to take over the world, fire all your developers. But really, this actually is going to just really cause some big problems. AI lacks judgment about consequences. The technical ability it can solve does not equate wisdom, right? So wisdom means knowing if you should do something. Technical ability is what AI is starting to have, but even the coding scores are in the low 20%. And so I don't think it's even anywhere near ready for code that would see production. And no one's actually shown me any proof. And I'll show you some great examples of some other problems. But technical ability does not equal wisdom. And a solution often can create new problems, right? So the contextual understanding is what remains poor. The open fact about AI is that you can talk about these large contexts, right? So Google Gemini, has 1 million token context input, right, as part of their models. And it's the reason that their Flash 2.0 models are doing really well is because 1 million is really large. But compared to a human who's been developing for even a couple of years, this is a fraction of the size, right? The context, meaning all of your experience, is what they're trying to replicate in this context and or in the training. So the long-term impacts are being ignored because everybody's on this rush to try to get AI into their systems, and they feel like they're being left behind. So there's some basic tasks that AI can do, right? There's some interesting things that it can definitely do. But it's kind of the reason why you're running into, so I think legal is going to get really hit a lot with AI because anybody like myself, rather than reaching out to an attorney, can generate some contracts on most of these new AI platforms. However, I'm taking that risk knowing that that there's a possibility that that contract may not stand up in court, right? And the context, the experience that comes from a professional attorney is going to be the difference to that, right? So if you're getting sued by a large company and you try to rely on AI for bringing your legal battle, good luck. If you're just generating a simple contract for a consultant, then it might be okay for that, right? But there's a lot of things happening here, and we're seeing copyright issues starting to come into place. But there's definitely technical limitations that we're seeing on as you begin to get into real applications versus limited. Now, if your company is struggling to get real applications, get your systems connected together, reach out to Startup Hack because our specialty is connecting systems so your company can work like a well-oiled machine. Now, there's a lot of talk here about about letting go of developers to replace letting go of developers and having AI replace everything, right? So I'm with this author here, and he's like, he's sitting there saying, hey, there's this popcorn because everything's going to blow up and the sea levels are going to be sitting there laughing and enjoying this. Whereas there will be, he's predicting that the new generation of programmers are going to be less prepared because you used to have to start very deep. I know when I went to a computer science degree, I had to start with assembly language, right? And so I had to dive very, very deep into it. And he's saying that companies who will let programmers go for AI will regret this sooner rather than later. I don't even think it'll take long. Anybody who thinks, and I hear Salesforce making a whole lot of noise about this, Meta just recently said something about it. Like AI can write code. Sure. Can it deploy it? Can it know if that code's good? Can it be looking for security vulnerabilities, right? Serious programmers are going to be even more rare and more expensive. That's the irony that we're seeing here. The great example of this is everybody said in the 60s when calculators, because of the microchip came about, calculators would be that calculators were going to replace mathematicians. The irony is that a mathematician coming out with a degree now is one of the highest paid fields, right? So as we start to talk about these big companies who are saying they're going to replace developers with AI, it's going to make the developers actually more expensive. But this is the reason why juniors should be jumping in to get into the experience now. So I'm with this guy for his conclusions here, right? Tech is shooting itself in the foot. The tech industry is making a massive mistake. By believing AI can replace developers, it's killing the very ecosystem that keeps innovation alive. What do you think is building the AI systems right now? Surprises developers. Junior programmers will be undertrained and over-reliant on AI. This is a problem I am definitely seeing. I actually do interviews and people frequently are typing against AI while I'm interviewing them. And I just laugh. I say, I can hear you typing. Companies that fired engineers will be scrambling to fix the mess AI generate code leaves behind. 100% this is going to happen. The best programmers will be so rare and so expensive that only the wealthiest firms will be able to afford them. I'm actually in agreement with this guy. I think it's a fantastic article. I'll put the link down below, so make sure you check out that article. But I think that this is a really big thing, right? Because there's a lot of productivity myths out there that says that AI is going to increase productivity. Now, I do think for good developers, AI can increase productivity. However, if you're relying on it to do all of your job, you're going to be sorely mistaken and sorely disappointed. Here's another article that I was reading. It says Intel admits that AI decreases productivity. And so this guy's saying the house of cards is already wobbling, right? So he does go into here and say Intel's extended study, which tries to see if AI can save time and boost productivity, found that current AI PC owners spend longer on tasks than their counterparts using traditional PCs. So I found that was really funny. It also said that a recent study found that 96% of executive managers say they expect AI to boost productivity dramatically. 77% of their employees say AI has increased their workload, and 39% report spending more time moderating the AI than actually doing the task themselves. And I've found the same thing to be as well. I keep thinking that AI will do it. And there are some things that I use AI for that have become very handy and I use it for very frequently. However, there are some things where I just end up beating my head against the wall a lot. So let me take this one example here because I found this really telling of kind of the state of AI, right? So I'm going to share my screen here again. So I went through some of the more popular AIs and I said, hey, draw me a perfect circle using ASCII, right? This actually isn't that difficult. Now, some did better than others. So this one is DeepSeek. DeepSeek came out and its circle does not look anything like a circle. So DeepSeek definitely takes a big L here, right? Definitely can't draw a perfect circle. But yet, this is the one that's going to be DeepSeek's the running leader right now, right? And it's going to run and diagnose all of medical things and solve cancer, right? Right? Okay. Gemini, draw me a perfect circle. It didn't even try, and it didn't even tell me that that it wasn't going to do it. It just says, nah, I can give you a little alien guy. No idea why that is. That one kills me because this is even Gemini Advanced 2.0 Flash, right? So this one killed me that it's this is actually a paid for model, right? So I think DeepSeek was the free one. Gemini's paid. So let's go to Claude. So Claude gets pretty close, right? It looks a little bit more like an oval and it actually tells you that and says, hey, look, this is going to look a little bit more like an oval, but it's still a long ways away from a perfect circle. There would be a very easy way to draw a perfect circle with ASCII, just FYI. This is not an unsolvable problem. Now let's go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT probably gets the closest on this one because my guess is it's been banged up on its test enough that it gets pretty close, but that's still far from a perfect circle, right? So this is just a really good example that if you want to get close enough with your software and your deployments, and you want to be close enough to let AI write your code and fire all your developers, just remember that example. And if you think that's an oversimplified example, it's absolutely not, because code that is written by AI is nowhere near ready for production. It has to have a human that touches it. So I think we're actually seeing a lot of fails here. I think systems integration challenges with it will become more and more complex. Dependencies multiply rapidly. Maintenance costs are going to explode. The documentation will remain incomplete because it'll be full of a bunch of word salad. And I think ultimately at the end, if you try to rely on AI, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of expensive hidden costs that are going to grow. Your infrastructure needs will grow. Training costs will never really end. And the ROI on it is going to be an epic fail. Now, if you do disagree with me, I love to have a great discussion, but show me an actual system that has been built by AI, and I'll show you that can't even write a basic word page, a basic HTML page. So what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to have a great discussion. The best compliment you can give to me is to like and subscribe and to leave a comment down below. Here at Startup Hack, we'd love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as build custom software solutions for companies. So reach out because we'd love to help, and we will catch you guys, and here's some great information for you.
Want to become a software developer but don't want to spend 4 years in college and rack up massive student loan debts? Think you need technical expertise to get started? Welcome to Startup Hack, a better way to start your software career without student loans and years without income. One-on-one tutoring is included so you never get stuck and have guidance through the whole process. No technical experience is necessary. Learn at your own pace and in your own space. Startup Hack has worked with local state agencies in your area to make it so that qualifying students can get the program costs covered entirely and students can start earning while they learn.
Startup Hack's .NET Coding Bootcamp was a game changer for my career. As someone with no prior programming experience, I was initially intimidated by the idea of learning to code, but the instructors at Startup Hack broke down complex concepts into easy to understand lessons and provided hands-on projects that really cemented my understanding. The curriculum was comprehensive and up to date and got me ready for my first job. What really set Startup Hack apart was the focus on practical, real-world skills. Thanks to Startup Hack, I landed my dream job as a .NET developer within weeks of graduating. I went from knowing nothing about code to building professional-grade web applications in just a few intense months. If you're looking to break into .NET development or level up your coding skills, I cannot recommend Startup Hack enough.
Complete our 3-month coding bootcamp, gain hands-on experience, and land a paid internship. With 2 years of experience on average, our graduates are making over $80,000 per year. The 3-month program includes technologies from Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. No debt, just a quick path to earning. Check out startuphack.com to code your future